Welcome to RAIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network with your hostess, Jen Josie. Join like-minded real estate investors and accelerate your business towards greatness. You will hear step-by-step strategies for success, interviews with real estate rock stars, and we will dig deep into past projects where we bear it all, including the good, the bad, and some just plain ugly. So get excited. Here's the bestower of badassery herself, the real Jen Josie. Listener discretion is advised.
Hi, and welcome back. I'm Jen Josie, creator of RAIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network. Whoop, whoop. On today's episode, we have a guest that will be sharing their badassery. But before we begin, here's today's badassery bestowment, my little badass gift to you. Today's topic is barn doors. Just stop with the barn doors already. I have been very vocal about this design fail, but even the ChatGPT agrees with me. So here are 5 reasons why you should steer clear of these rustic relics. Number 1, trend fatigue. Barn doors had their moment in the sun, but like all trends, they start to fade. Buyers may perceive them as a dated design choice, signaling that the home hasn't kept up with the times. Number 2, limited aesthetic versatility. Barn doors by nature carry a rustic and often specific aesthetic. This limits the potential buyer pool as not everyone is a fan of the farmhouse or industrial vibe. Choosing more neutral and adaptable options opens up the possibilities for a broader range of tastes. Number 3, space constraints. Barn doors slide along the wall, which can limit furniture placement and wall usage. In smaller spaces, this might be a deal breaker for potential buyers who are keen on maximizing every inch of their new home. Number 4, privacy issues. While you may think barn doors are visually appealing, they might not provide the privacy that certain rooms demand. In bedrooms or bathrooms, a traditional door might be a more practical and expected choice for potential buyers. Number 5, perceived quality. Some potential buyers might associate barn doors with lower quality or DIY installations. This perception could lead them to question the overall craftsmanship and attention to detail in the rest of the house. So, when you're in the process of flipping a house, think beyond the trend and consider choices that not only appeal to current tastes, but also stand the test of time. It's all about creating a space that feels fresh, inviting, and ready for the next chapter in someone's life. Now, on to today's episode of the Real Estate Investor Growth Network podcast. We have with us Loren Wernette. Loren's journey into the world of real estate began in the middle of the pandemic in 2020. Faced with the realization that a traditional W-2 job wouldn't provide the life and opportunities he aspired to offer his family, Loren embarked on a transformational path. With a newfound vision, Loren set some ambitious goals. He achieved his first milestone by acquiring a tri-plex through seller financing in November 2021. Since then, Loren has quickly grown his portfolio with a total of 78 doors. His story is a testament to the power of determination, strategic thinking, and seizing opportunities. I'm excited to have him on the show, so welcome, Loren.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. And this is early in the morning for me, but man, I know we're going to have some fun already because it was fun chatting with you before we started here. So you have a great story how you got involved with real estate, and it started around a bonfire. So can you tell me a little bit about how you decided, boom, I'm going into real estate?
Yeah. So 2020 happened and I knew that the W-2 was not going to get me where I wanted to go long term, but I had the same issues that everybody else does. Like, oh, I don't have $20,000 in my bank account. I don't have a down payment. I can't buy a house yet. I got to have a bunch of cash, got to stack the cash, and then I can buy something. And honestly, I just kind of put it off I'm not going to do this for several years. in 2021, I was at a bonfire with a friend who had a couple of units. And I just said, yeah, in a couple of years, I'll have some money. And he's like, if you find the right deal, we'll find the money, like find the deal. And it just something in my head snapped. And so I immediately started building business plans, and took some, what my wife would call very excessive steps, because I was going after mobile home parks at the time. And so I had $7,000 in my bank account that I could use for stuff. And I put a $4 million offer in on a mobile home park and a $2.5 million offer in on a mobile home park, knowing that the deals were good enough that I would find the money if they got accepted. Now, knowing what I know now, I'm very thankful those did not work out. But I think it shows the mindset that I had, that I will make this work. I don't know how, but I am very action oriented, always have been. And I don't need to see like every step from A to Z. I need to see this, how to get from A to B, maybe from B to C. Right. And then you figure things out along the way, because most of the time when you plan all the way to Z, things change and you don't ever follow that same plan all the way through anyways.
I mean, everything you just said, absolutely so true. And a lot of people, that's what holds them up, is they need to see the entire staircase when really just need to see the first step. So thank you for saying that. You currently do work in a W-2 still though. So what is that path look like for you? How soon can you leave the W-2? What is it that is going to make you leave that W-2? Like, is there a certain number that you have to be making per month? So tell us that portion of it.
Yeah. So the business has been growing so rapidly for the last 16, 18 months that 2022 was all about how to buy properties, how to find private money lending. 2023 was all about how to build a business. And so we have been actively reinvesting the vast majority of our profits back into the business, and have taken not as much out as probably we should have, for a couple of reasons. I have a solid W-2 that provides me, all the money I need to live on. Now, I think it is starting to slow down my business ability to grow. So that is definitely a consideration when I look into this. But I need the business to be very stable. I have a wife. I have 4 children, 8 and under, 8, 6, 3, and she'll be one year in 2 weeks. And so we've gone through a lot of changes over the last year. And so my wife is also significantly more risk adverse than I am. And so I am making sure that I'm going to be providing for her. And I don't want us to take a massive lifestyle hit for this, even though I know that long-term it's the path. So it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And I think that the major considerations are, do we have enough money in the bank to get us through several months, 3 to 6 months of just bare bones living? Can I see a path where the business is producing a significant amount of cash on a monthly basis? And we've put some steps in place over the last 2 or 3 months to make that happen. And then what other things that the company provides that I wouldn't currently get from the business, will the business need to provide? Health insurance, phone plan, computer, all these little things that you don't think about, that all of a sudden you leave and you're like, oh crap, I got to go buy a $2,000 computer. I have a $50 phone plan. I've got to pay for health insurance. I've got the X, Y, Z, all the things. Right. And so it's just steps towards that, knowing that it'll happen, but making sure that I'm preparing all along the way. And the other consideration is my business partner doesn't have a W-2. And so we have to make sure that the business is even more secure, because the business will have to support 2 families.
Right. And who is your business partner?
Eric Timmermans.
Yes, I know Eric. I've traveled with Eric. We are part of a mastermind together. So, and I'm like, wait, you're my area. You're my neck of the woods. So, yes, good guy. Really, really good guy. So, all right. Many of the listeners out there are still sitting in their W-2 right now, and they're like, yeah, okay, dude, how did you work your W-2 and get to 78 doors? How did you make that work with your schedule alone?
So the short answer is I gave up a lot of sleep and I continue to give up a lot of sleep. But I think the first the first mindset everyone has to get over is that how you live your life today is got to change if you want change to happen in your life. So if you're getting up at 7, going to work, coming home, doing the kid stuff, watching Netflix until 11 o'clock at night and rinse and repeat, like there's no time in your day for the things that will make you grow and make your business succeed. So you need to just give that up and know that there's going to be a couple years where things are going to be very taxing, very much a struggle. So on a daily or on a regular basis, I'm getting 5 to 5.5 hours worth of sleep. My day starts at around 4:30 to 5. I get up, I work out. I read a nonfiction book, so usually a business book for 20 to 30 minutes. I have a transactional lending business, so then I'll do some cold outbound at that point in time, and then move into emails. Then work all day, deal with phone calls and stuff over lunchtime, work all afternoon. And then in the evenings, I'm basically working up until 7 o'clock at night. It was until 10, but because of I have a wife who thinks that she needs attention. I now I understand she's a saint. So I put my phone away at 7 o'clock at night. And it allows me to sleep better too, because if I'm working right up till I go to bed, then it's like, you're thinking about accounting, you're thinking about process, you're thinking about all these things. So getting over the hurdle that you are going to have to suffer a little bit in order to get what you want, right? But the people that do what we can't now did what we won't do, right?
Exactly.
So you have to make some sacrifices to make that happen. And I'm willing to do those things and make those sacrifices to get there.
Yeah. As you were saying this, that saying kept going through my head, and I'm going to butcher it right now, but I have it in my house in certain spots. And it says, being an entrepreneur is living your life like most people won't, living a few years of your life like most people won't, so you can live the rest of your life like most people can't. I did pretty good on that. Anyway. So how did you find that first triplex? I mean, that's the triplex is what really got you started in this. So walk us through the steps on how you got that first property.
Yeah. So before I get to that, I think the important point for anybody that hasn't bought a property yet is so much of real estate is based off what experience you have. And so a lot of people think
real estate investing.
Real estate investing is what experience do you have? And so a lot of people are looking for that very first deal to be an absolute home run. It is more important to have a first deal and show that you have experience than it is to have a home run deal. So now I'm not saying go and buy anything and lose money, but like a base hit is perfectly acceptable for your first deal, because you're going to get more value out of the learning of the first deal than of the actual money. So going back to my first deal. So I was putting offers on mobile home parks. I had pulled up Google Maps and was just finding mobile home parks, looking for who the owners were and cold calling them. Called a guy in Rocky Mount, had a mobile home park. He says, well, I'm not interested in selling that, but let me show you around Rocky Mount. And it turns out he was in the process of buying a 66-unit apartment building, wanted some cash, and saw something in me he liked. And so he basically offered to sell or finance the property to me and give me some help along the way as a new investor. And so the structure of that deal was he carried the note for a year at 5. And then the interest rate went up every 6 months after that significantly to kind of hurry me along, which I didn't need because I got it done in a year anyways. I provided a decent size down payment. Now, I said earlier I only had $7,000. I had to convince my wife to take a home equity line of credit on our primary residence in order to do this. So we got the HELOC, we put that down, and then I spent the next 6 to 9 months working to get tenants out, renovating the property. We put about $50,000 in. So I purchased the property for $140,000. I put $50,000 into it, and it refinanced at $270,000. So today I'm cash flowing $886 total off those 3 units. And I left about 20 grand in the deal. So not a perfect BRRRR by any means, but I have a brick triplex on slab with new roof, LVP, granite countertops, new plywood, 3/4 inch plywood cabinets in an okay area of Rocky Mount. And it's going to sit there and just kind of go up in value for the next 20 years.
I laugh. My very first deal was in Rocky Mount as well. And I did not know, because just like what you said, I just wanted that first deal. And one of my coaches was like, Jen, why do you not have this under contract yet? So, yeah, we got it. And then we had a hard time. This was in 2017. So we had a hard time getting contractors that were licensed and insured. I'm sure you know this in Rocky Mount. And, it's an area that is up and coming. It's a very smart investment, but we literally just didn't know what to do with this property. So we wholetailed it. We paid the neighbor $30 to mow the lawn. We scraped some paint. We put a $200, swapped out the thermostat, and literally we made a quick, I think we made about 13,000 off that one and just listed it, found it off Craigslist. But anyway, I digress. So I love that. I love how you explained it. I love that you talked about the HELOC as well, because a lot of people don't know there's seller financing that you did. There's all this creative type financing. So your HELOC, you took 50,000 out. What was the interest that you were paying on that HELOC?
At the time, I think it was 6.5%.
Okay. So it's not,
when I first got the HELOC, not great,
but not horrible.
It got me in the game.
Yep.
Right.
And then you were able to pay that back when you refinanced it for the most part.
All but 20K or so.
20K. Yes, exactly. Yeah. Which is, in the grand scheme of things, you can pay that off pretty quickly. So right. Excellent job on that. I want to kind of shift now, because what made me really want to interview you was that you started a local meetup. And I have students across the country who are like, there's just no meetups in my area. And you're in Clayton, North Carolina. And so I'm sure you had options to drive to Raleigh, to drive to Wilmington, to other places where they have larger meetups. And so what you did was you started your own. And I love this. And I used to run one myself, and it built your credibility. Number one, people think, oh, well, he's in charge of this. He must be the man to invest all my money with, so you laugh, but I mean, it's crazy how when you put yourself in a position like that, people think, oh, well, he knows what he's doing, so let me throw more money his way. So how did you go about starting your local real estate investment group?
Yeah, so exactly what you said. We were going to TRIA meetings in Raleigh. I was going to Rocky Mount TRIA meetings. We were going to the Bigger Pockets meetup in Raleigh, but nothing in Johnston County, nothing whatsoever. And we knew a few other investors that were out there, and they just didn't have the resources. There was no way to network and meet with people. And so my buddy, actually the buddy that I had the bonfire with, him and I are like, let's start a meetup. And I'm like, will anybody show up? And he's like, I don't know, maybe they will, maybe they won't. If nothing else, then we'll have dinner once a month together. And so we basically just put a structure together that we are going to have a speaker that was relevant to real estate in some way, shape, or form on a monthly basis. The meeting would start at a certain time. There'd be a networking component at the beginning, about an hour presentation, and then a networking component at the end. Because in our minds, the biggest value for a meetup is the networking component. And so you want to have a really strong networking component to basically provide value. And then the speaker is also there to provide value, but it's also really the draw to get people to show up. Yep. Right. Otherwise, it's just like, hey, we're going to have drinks with other people that do real estate. And it's like, it's easier to say, I'm not going to come. Right. It's more, there's more time sensitivity. Like, hey, we've got this appraiser. Like, when are you going to get to hear appraiser talk about what adds value to a house and what doesn't, specifically for flips. And so we started in June or July of last year in just like a Cleveland draft house, like at a table, had like 5 people. And I think our biggest challenge so far has been finding a good location.
Yes.
Because you want to have a location where you can have enough people, but you don't want it so big or have to pay for it that you look like there's like 5 people in an empty warehouse. And then we would find we had one really good location that was at a brewery, and they had an upstairs, they had a private room, it was free. And then that little business shut down. So then we were going to another. So in 1 year, we've been to 4 locations: Cleveland Draft House, the brewery. We were at a nail salon, one of our members owned, for one event. And but now
but it smelled lovely in there.
Yeah, I mean, it worked for what we needed it for. Then we found this room in the back of the local food hall, which has been perfect. But we've already, in 2 meetings, we've already outgrown those rooms. Like I'm sitting with my back out the door. And so we've had just an explosion. And by explosion, we went from like 6 people to like 35 regularly in a year, which I'm pretty happy with. But we're probably going to have to shift where we meet again, probably still there, just in a different spot in that building, to accommodate the number of people. But we are getting people from Fayetteville coming all the way up because it's, right off of 95. We're getting people from Raleigh, people from Johnston County. And really the value for all of them is not just, hey, there's money, but I need a contractor.
Yes.
Here's a wholesaler I've never met before. We bought a deal. Met somebody last month that was a wholesaler. And not only am I getting deals from him now, but I'm also his transactional lender for double closings. So, because I have that business as well. So there's a ton of value that you can get from those things. And more importantly, as someone that has gone through the process of not having any properties to having all these properties in such a short period of time, I feel like I am obligated to provide a lot of value to people that are, coming up, because I still remember the terror of driving to that closing attorney's office to sign my name on a seller financing agreement with somebody I'd only met twice and buy this huge property that needed all these renovations with no idea how I was going to renovate it, who was going to rent it, how I was going to refinance it, any of these things. Right. And I'd figured it out, but I feel like it's my responsibility to help people that want to bring themselves from nothing to somewhere where I am or above me.
And as a podcaster as well, this is, I feel like I'm being selfish. I get to pick people to come speak with me and learn so much from them. And then same thing in a situation like that. So listeners, if you are out there and you are in an area where there is nothing there, and you have to drive an hour, 2 hours to go to a meetup, start your own. I think that is such a fantastic idea. So Loren, has it helped your business by being in charge of this meetup?
I think it definitely has. I mean, it definitely, so I have a couple of businesses, and it's definitely helped my rental business because I've been able to connect with wholesalers more. It's helped my rental business because I've been able to find more private money lenders. It's helped my transactional lending business because I find more wholesalers that way. And it's also, honestly, it's helped my social media following because I'm able to use that as content to help people grow their meetups, as well as use that as a platform to promote the meetup, which helps the meetup grow. So it's kind of this self-feeding cycle. I
love it. Very, very cool. So to wrap up this first part of the podcast is I want to talk about this transactional lending that you do, because a lot of people who are wholesalers, they sometimes have to do what's called a double close, where they want to close on the property before they do the closing with the buyer, the investor buyer. So you do what's called transactional lending, and just explain first of all what that is, and then, how is this a good moneymaker for you, this side hustle of yours? I love this.
Sure. Yeah. So what transactional lending does is when a wholesaler has a property with a seller and they want to or need to do a double closing, the state of North Carolina and most states require that wholesaler bring the full purchase price and closing costs to the table. Now, I shouldn't say most. A lot of wholesalers aren't sitting on $80,000, $50,000, whatever that number is, or they don't want to use it for that. They would rather use it for marketing. And so what they do is they reach out to me and say, hey, will you fund this? Let's say it's $60,000 and my closing cost on this deal that's going to close in 2 days or 4 days or whenever it is. And I say, yes. I communicate directly with the attorney. I get all the HUDs. I make sure all the documents are there. And then I fund that deal 100%. So they don't have to bring any money to the table. When the end buyer buys the property, then I get my principal back as well as my fee for the use of my money for sometimes as little as 8 hours. It's usually somewhere between 8 hours and 48 hours that my money's with the attorney. And so we don't make a ton on each individual deal. So we charge a flat 1%. So
Nice.
if it's $100,000, I make $1,000, right? And so while it's a lending business, it really is more of a service business, because I act more like a transaction coordinator than anything else. Because once the wholesaler provides me the information about who the closing attorney is, when it's happening, the approximate funding amount, closing day, that kind of stuff, I just communicate directly with the closing attorney. And then I'm like, okay, I need the HUD, AB HUD, which is between the wholesaler and the seller. And I need the BC HUD, which is between the wholesaler and the end buyer. I make sure my numbers are there. I'm communicating with the wholesaler all along the way, so they know, got the AB HUD in, I got the BC HUD in, I've wired the funds, the property's been recorded, all these things along the way, so that they're in constant knowledge of what's happening in the process. And if I need to push on somebody, I can push on them to get things done, because I want things to close just as bad as the wholesaler, because I don't get paid unless the deal closes, right? And so we started this in May of this year, in response to some things that happened in North Carolina that just kind of pointed me in the direction that I think that as a country, a lot of states are going to move to these double closes as a requirement. It's not happened yet. It has happened in a couple states, but I see it as what's happening in the future. And so if I look at the market, I think I'm maybe 2 years early on really having an explosion of double closes. Now, I would argue there's definitely still need, and people should consider double closes for some of the other benefits that there are to them. But I wanted to create a brand and brand awareness in the marketplace prior to that coming down from the government and everybody that had $100,000 becoming a transactional lender in the market.
So do you use your own funds, or do you have people?
So we have a mixture.
Okay.
So certain deals, like I've one that was supposed to close on today, but there was a hack into some of the recording systems in one of the counties. I'll use my own funds for that. And then over a certain amount, then we'll mix our funds with investor funds and then pay the investors a portion of take.
Nice. Well, this is all fantastic. And, you are definitely an inspiration to the listeners out there who are driving to work right now and thinking, how do I get the hell out of this rat race? And so thank you for that. And I love that you even have the side hustle, and you are looking at big picture here. Oh goodness, his name just escaped my brain. The guy who he says you need, is it 6 forms of income coming in? Who am I talking about? What the heck is that guy?
I don't know his name.
He eats McDonald's breakfast every morning.
Oh, Warren Buffett.
See, the McDonald's breakfast that you all.
That's what sold it.
So you need 6 income streams coming in, and that can be in the form of transactional lending. It can be in the form of your rent coming in. It could be flips that you do. So I love all that. And you're setting yourself up for, a future that the sky is the limit. So great job on that. The second part of the podcast is what makes Loren a badass. And I use the acronym BADASS. And the first letter is B for book. What's a book that's made a huge difference in your life?
So, the cliche answer is going to be Rich Dad, Poor Dad, right? Because
the Purple Bible. That's what we call it.
Yeah, exactly. It set me off. I was literally on the brink of buying an RV. I read that book and then just deleted those browser tabs immediately. So that's the one. But if I, look deeper, traction has been a huge game changer for our business. And then the other one that I've read recently is Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell. That one was transformative in how I thought about where I should be spending my money and how I should be spending my money. I've always been one to outsource. Like, I vowed from the very beginning, despite knowing how to do construction work, that I was never going to pick up a hammer, because if my time's worth $100 an hour or even or 200 or whatever it is, that if I spend my time on a $20 task, I'll lose $80, right?
Yep.
And I think, honestly, and this may make sense to some of your listeners, is that the W-2 actually has helped me grow my business faster. And the reason it has is because I'm there doing that job, I can't be somewhere else doing something low value. And so I have had to outsource and systematize and put processes in place to make things move forward in my absence. It has been a requirement. And because of that, our business has grown much faster than it would have if I was running around delivering refrigerators and picking up lumber.
Oh my goodness. So true. And, us who don't have to work a W-2, we get caught up in those like, oh, I'll just go buy the faucets or, and you're so right. My time is a lot more valuable finding deals, doing, the $200 an hour type task. So thank you for saying that. All right. The first A in badass is for advice. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
I think that going right back to where I was talking about is make sure you know what your time's worth and that you are focusing your efforts on those items. So one of the things that I would recommend every single person on this podcast, listen to this podcast, do is for the next 2 weeks, do a time audit. So what you do in a time audit is on an Excel sheet or on a piece of paper, every hour you for 50 minutes you work, and then for 10 minutes you write down everything you did during that 50 minutes. You do that for 2 weeks. Then you go back through with a couple colors of highlighter and you highlight all of the tasks that you could hire someone for less than $10 an hour. You highlight all the tasks that make your business money, and you hire all the tasks that are in the middle range that are, they're $50, $60 an hour things. And then you immediately look at those $10 things and say, what can I outsource today? And what can I outsource in 3 months? And you put plan and action in place to do that. I did that and immediately hired an executive assistant. And every now and then I'm like, oh, I'm not sure if she's worth the money I'm paying her. And then I'm like, I only have to get an hour's worth of value out of her a day, and I'm making my money back on daily. Right. So do the time audit. I think it's a lot like counting calories. You will be much more efficient while you are doing the time audit than when you're not doing it. Just like you eat better when you're doing calorie counting, right? But you take that with a grain of salt. Like, okay, I know I'm going to do a time audit. I know I'm going to be more efficient these 2 weeks, but you still get a really good idea of like what you're spending your time on. I was spending way more time than I should have on dealing with my bookkeeping, like doing categorization of transactions, on emails, on my calendar management, things of those things that, they don't add any value because they're not bringing money to the business. I'm not finding deals. I'm doing those things instead of the things that make money.
So true. And I had a coach had me break it down every 15 minutes. So just kind of going through, and man, your time disappears when you get into something and you're like, holy shit, I can't believe I just spent 2 hours, looking on Zillow. Like, why was that such a waste of time? Anyway, so
I think it also IDs what you do repetitively.
Yes.
Right? Like, okay, I'm doing this all the time. Is there a way that I can systematize this? Right. And I used to spend a ton of time running numbers on properties. Like I do the same motions over and over. And it's like, this is dumb. I just made an Excel sheet and now my admin just types the numbers in when wholesalers send us deals. And then it conditionally formats to green, yellow, red. If it's green or yellow, I get it and I deal with it. If it's red, we just move on.
Yep.
Right.
I love all that. It's just one of those where, looking at your time and realizing this is my comfort zone. This is what I love spending my time doing. And really becoming an entrepreneur is getting out of that comfort zone a lot of times. So well said, Loren. I love that. Thank you very much. All right. The D in badass is for drive. What drives you to be successful?
We'll get maybe hopefully not too deep here, but I've always had a bit of a chip on my shoulder. So I have a good education. I have a master's, a bachelor's, but when I was in second grade, I had a teacher tell my parents that I would never be better than a C or D student. I was always a bit of a outcast, not really ever like in the popular kids, but not like the bottom either. And so I think there's some part of me that's like, you are better than a lot of people. It's a terrible thing to say, but you haven't proven it. And so I'm trying to prove it to myself in a lot of ways that I'm worthy, which, like I said, this is maybe getting a little deeper than what we wanted to get. But I think there's a lot of that. Additionally, I have 4 small children, 3 boys and 1 girl. And I have this massive sense of urgency to set a good example and provide them something tangible that they could hold on to long term. Now, I don't really think of that as money. I think of that as, do they have the knowledge base to build what I have built or to maintain what I have built, right? If I leave them with nothing, they should be able to build something bigger than what I'm leaving them, because of the things I've taught them. And that's one of the reasons why I work out regularly, so they see that example. It's one of the reasons why I involve them in the business. Now, I don't put them on my social media for other reasons, but they go to the houses with me when I go to houses, which is not very often. And I have my oldest son is like, I want to have a business. I want to start a business, right? And he knows not what he speaks and the stress and the pain that involves, but those are the big things of providing for my family and then proving to myself that I'm worth it.
Well, shame on that second grade teacher, because, oh my goodness, but on the flip side of it, it projected you to become so good at what you do and having that. But man, I cannot believe a second grade teacher would say that. And you see the value of really providing that example for your own kids. So bravo to you. All right. The second A in badass is for aspiration. I'm a big goal setter. So what is a goal you are currently working on?
Oh, there's a whole list of goals I've got. It just depends on the time frame. Obviously, my businesses and getting them successful is top of priority. And so, the longest term goal, like the game within the game, obviously there's the goal of getting wealthy, but long term, like I intend to donate $20 million or more to different organizations that protect our wild places. So nice. We did a ton of hiking in 2020 as a family. I'm a big backpacker. I love being outside. And I want to protect that for generations to come. And so as we move forward, I will be donating more and more money to organizations that protect, the national parks and to large wild places from development, which is kind of funny that a real estate guy that's building properties is looking to prevent people from building properties. But I think that us as a society cannot thrive and prosper without a really strong park system and a really strong system in general to protect our national resources.
Well, I'm a big outdoor person myself, so I love all of that. And here in North Carolina, we just have amazing park systems around here.
So spoiled.
We are so spoiled. Absolutely. All right. The first S in badass is for systems. And I know you're a big systems guy. So what systems do you have in place to help you achieve success?
So yeah, we have put a bunch of systems. So first, end of last year, I built an entire CRM system for our business. And that not only tracks every one of our properties and all the numbers associated with it, it gives me a dashboard I can look at on a daily basis and tell me exactly how long our projects are taking, what percentage we are at budget on a project by project or an overview. It tells me what's vacant, what's renovated and vacant, what's vacant and not renovated. And it allows us to streamline the acquisition process, because when one task gets done, the next one gets assigned to the right person, and we can move things forward. And so we're not like leaving money on the table through things that are lost in text message. Additionally, one of the biggest mistakes I made from the very beginning was not setting up our accounting system. So I paid a heavy cost in December of last year when I had to go through and categorize in Excel 10,000 transactions.
Oof.
And so I would have put QuickBooks into place. $40 a month would have been worth the hours and hours and hours that I spent doing that. So we have, QuickBooks in place. We have our CRM. And then we have, like I said, I have an admin, and then we're working to build out more processes and SOPs. So for example, when an invoice comes in, we pay contractors on Fridays. My admin takes the invoice from our email. She files it in a specific spot in our file structure with a specific name type, so that when we go back to categorize stuff, all you have to do is type in the amount that was on the invoice or the amount that's in QuickBooks, and it will pull up the invoice and the folder structure which says the class name. And so she can easily categorize all of our transactions using that, or our bookkeeper can.
Nice.
So we're constantly trying to improve that, and the systems and the processes are what will get you from hustler that started your business to business owner.
Yes. Yes, so true. Is your personal assistant, or business admin, are they local or is it a virtual?
Virtual. So she lives in the Philippines. And she works, I think she works like basically third shift. They're 12-hour difference. So she starts at 8 and works till 5.
Wow.
But she's awesome. I mean, one of the things when hiring people that you always want to think about is, what is your personality type? And we leverage personality tests really extensively in our company. And so we had them do, all of our applicants do a personality test. And I am a maverick, or a very high I, extroverted, kind of go-getter, but I'm not super detail oriented. I can flex that way if I need to. So when we were looking at our last 2 candidates, one of the candidates and I, we really clicked. We just got along. We talked really well. It was really smooth and fun. The other candidate wasn't quite as smooth of a conversation. It was a little more awkward. But when you looked at the personality test, she was detail oriented. She was everything that I wasn't.
Yeah.
And so we hired the person that I didn't click with as well, because she had skills that I didn't have. And within the first 2 weeks of being onboarded, she found 3 properties that somehow had slipped through the cracks, and we didn't even have insurance on, property insurance on. So yeah, right. I mean, and when we were buying 12 properties a month for a couple months there, and we were buying them in bundles. And so what happened is 2 properties had been bought in a bundle, and we got insurance on one of that bundle, but not the other 2.
Ooh, good
and so
catch.
she saved our butts there. And it's just, she does the things that you don't like doing, you might think you're great at, but if you don't like doing them, you suck at them. You just do. You suck at them, and you're not going to do them. So find people that actually like to do those things, and the job will get done way better than if you try to do it yourself.
Definitely. Oh my goodness. And it's that book, Who Not How. If you haven't read that one yet, so good. I was like, please let these people come into my life. And it just, when you are open to it, you see more and more, and you're like, I need to hire that person, etc. So great points.
People get stuck on nobody can do it as good as I can do it. Right. And that is like poison to an entrepreneur. Yep. Because no one's ever going to do things the same way you do them. That doesn't mean it's worse, but also someone else doing something 80% as good as you is 100% awesome, because you're not doing it. You can do something else.
Exactly. And I think it's also that whole step thing. People are like, how can I afford an annual salary for someone when you just got to get through the first month? You can pay them this, get through that first month, get to it. You will find a way. So
don't think about it in annual.
Yes.
My business coach said this the other day, is oh, you're going to hire somebody. Don't think I got to come up with $30,000. No, you don't. You need to come up with the next 2 months.
Yep, exactly.
You're only risking 2 months. And for an executive admin, you're talking $1,000 a month. So you're risking $2,000. And worst case happens is you put some new processes and systems in place, and you can hire somebody else that is a better fit if that person doesn't work.
So well said. Well, Loren, to wrap up this podcast interview, the final S in badass is for success. What does success mean to Loren Wernette?
So success to me is having businesses that are very boring. So businesses.
I just was looking at this. I think we probably were in the same feed this morning. I just read this on Facebook, but sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So I want my businesses to be boring. I want to build processes and systems and put people in place that run businesses that allow me my time back to go do the things that I really love doing, which is spending time with my family, hiking, and I love working. So starting new businesses. I love the building process. I love starting new businesses. I love the conceptualization of new businesses. When you get to the actual implementation, it's like drudgery, right? And everyone that starts a business will figure this out. It's really exciting at the beginning. It's really exciting. And then you hit this well, this sucks, because now it's just work. Well, yeah, guess what? It's going to be work. It's a job. You build yourself a job, but now your job is to build the business so you can hire some other schmuck to do your job for you. So, my goal is to continue to build these businesses and to continue to learn. I read a ton. I listen to podcasts all the time. I'm constantly looking to expand my skill set and figure out how to do things better and different than the way I'm currently do them or the way other people do them. Because in building skills and building knowledge, that's how you build value. It's not selling the newest thing, right? Widget. It's what skills do I have? No one can take that information from you once you have it in your head. So taking the business and making it build you as a person will help you as a person build the business.
I love it. And thank you so much for sharing everything. What's the best way for the listeners to find you? Say if they need some transactional funding, we'll start there first.
Yeah. So transactional funding, my company is REI Double Close. You can find it on just www.reidoubleclose.com. I'm pretty active on Instagram. So my handle is Invest with Loren. And I am putting reels out regularly. Follow me. And also, if you're a wholesaler or if you're a flipper, I have a number of different like Excel files and calculators and things like that, that if you just ask me, I will provide you free of value because I don't believe in gatekeeping. I have produced these things for my own use, but I'm happy to share because most of the things that I started or have now are because someone else shared something with me and then I retrofit it to my business.
Exactly. And by the way, that's Loren spelled Loren. So Invest with Loren on Instagram. So thank you so much. This has been such a pleasure having you on the show. And we're in the same neck of the woods. You and I need to hang out sometime. So yes, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a blast.
Absolutely. And that is all. Thank you for listening. And we will catch you on the next episode. Now go out there and share your badassery. And don't forget, make it a great day. Take care. Bye-bye. Whoop, whoop.
Thank you for listening to RAIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform so you never miss an episode. If you need more badassery, you can follow Jen Josie by visiting therealjenjosie.com or become a member of RAIN by registering on rainmastermind.com.